Welcome back. Now, today we're focusing on a critical issue impacting communities globally and a fight, and right here at home especially, human trafficking. The Department of Justice has now launched new local task team officers at ports of entry, backed by a policy framework that is aimed at boosting the collaboration or the coordination in combating human trafficking. Deputy Minister Andries Nel joins me to unpack this initiative and its impact on prevention efforts. Deputy Minister, appreciate the time. Thank you so much for joining us here on AM Report. Let's perhaps start with why this is any different to any efforts we've put in place previously, and how will it ensure that human trafficking happens less in the country?
Well, first of all, very, very good morning to you and your listeners, and thank you very much for the platform to talk about this very, very important issue, both globally and, as you point out very correctly, increasingly also in our country and on our continent. I think maybe just by way of background to say that on the 30th of July, we commemorated the UN International Day against trafficking in persons. The theme for this year is trafficking is organized crime, end the exploitation. I think that's important because it demonstrates the nature and the extent of the problem that we're dealing with, that increasingly this is becoming a very, very sophisticated form of international organized crime. What we were doing on the 30th at Cape Town International Airport was to launch, firstly, an office at the airport itself, where the Department of Justice, Home Affairs, the Border Management Agency, Social Development, and a range of non-governmental organizations can work from at the airport itself. Now, there's fantastic work being done by all of those agencies and civil society in terms of picking up potential victims of trafficking, identifying them, and being able then to provide them with the necessary support, both just as human beings, but also in order to ensure that they can be effective witnesses against those who are guilty of trafficking. We also launched a policy manual that guides the work of those officials at our ports of entry. Cape Town Airport was the first in hopefully many, many such initiatives throughout our ports of entry. Ports of entry, we focused on this year exactly because of their importance, both as risk areas, because that's through where the trafficking takes place, but also sites of opportunity to detect, to prosecute, but most importantly, to support the victims.
To do all of that, though, Deputy Minister, it feels like we need to have the right personnel in place. Is that the case then? Because yes, you launched this office now at our ports of entry, but are they sufficiently trained then as law enforcement officials, as border management officials, in order to be able to detect this sort of thing and to be able to investigate it, inspect it, and prosecute eventually when it gets to courts?
Let me just start off by saying that I can't find enough words to commend the dedication, the professionalism of those officials that I interacted with and members of civil society that I interacted with at Cape Town Airport. They run a really, really tight ship, and their willingness to partner with other departments and with civil society, I think bodes very well for the fight against trafficking. I would say yes, there's a very high awareness, but it's something that we can never, ever tire of continuously upgrading even those who have already been trained. I engaged with the AXA management, and they indicated that not only their own personnel had been trained, but the next stage was going to be to provide further training to the officials of the different airlines, working at those counters to be able to detect those red flags, the behavior, the body language, the gaze, the documentation of people who are potentially trafficked.
Yeah, I mean,
now,
what's missing
we're
then,
also
Minister?
very, very Mhm.
Apologies. What's missing? We've also added technology, for example, to the Border Management Authority's abilities to detect people crossing borders illegally, whether it be trafficking or otherwise as well. What other elements do you think then are missing? Because as you said, training is a key component. What
Yeah.
else?
Technology is absolutely indispensable for two reasons. The one is that increasingly those organized syndicates that are responsible for trafficking are using very, very sophisticated technology, AI, algorithms pushing out very seductive offers, ads for work, for opportunities in other countries. I mean, we saw that not too long ago when a group of 23 South Africans got enticed to go to Myanmar under completely false pretenses and then ended up being trafficked. Fortunately, a combined operation between police, Chinese and Myanmar police, resulted in that ring being bust and those 23 South Africans being repatriated. But technology also provides us with the opportunity to turn the tables, to use technology and algorithms to push out information that raises awareness and that counters many of those false adverts.
Very
Of
important.
course, the other element, of course, is our legislative framework, but I think there we're very, very happy that as far back as 2013, we already passed the Prohibition and Prevention of and Combating of Trafficking in Persons Act, which has a very, very comprehensive definition
Sure.
of what constitutes trafficking, and it imposes some very, very tough sentences. Your
Okay.
viewers would have seen the Jocelyn Smith case.
Yeah.
3 people responsible got life imprisonment. And that's, I think, in the past year, a total of 34 life sentences have been imposed for trafficking.
Let me challenge you a little bit then, perhaps, when it comes to our legislation and not necessarily our prosecution, because you point out those court cases, which is very significant, and the Jocelyn Smith one being a key aspect of that. But for example, right here, I have the U.S. Department, the U.S. State Department's own report then on trafficking in persons report. That's for 2024. And this is in relation to South Africa. It says 2024 trafficking in persons report, South Africa. On the second page is its prioritized recommendations. The first one that it recommends is the increased efforts to investigate and prosecute trafficking crimes and seek adequate penalties for convicted traffickers, including, and this is the important element, complicit officials, which should involve significant prison terms. How much of a role do our own border management authorities, our own law enforcement play in making human trafficking bigger than it ultimately should be?
Well, I think sadly, it's a matter of public record that indeed there is that complicity, and that is what we are working tirelessly to root out and to clean up. In the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, we have an absolutely zero tolerance approach. I think Minister Kubai has articulated that loudly and clearly, and it's backed up by action. She never ceases to refer to the number of people that basically that come to her desk to be fired. And it's something that she's very active in doing. Secondly, Minister Schreiber from Home Affairs, I think, has also embarked on a very vigorous campaign to clean out Home Affairs and the Border Management Agency. But sadly, I mean, we do recognize that as a major challenge. I do, though, just want to point out that the 2024 US State Department report on human trafficking actually upgrades South Africa from the Tier 2 watch list to Tier 2. in recognition for the progress that we have made in fighting trafficking in persons.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. That very same report does indeed upgrade us. Deputy Minister, appreciate the time. Thank you so much. I guess the big question marks are always going to be implementation and enforcement, which seems like the two words you could use to describe South Africa in general, ultimately at this time. But appreciate your time this morning. The Deputy Justice Minister there, Andries Nel, talking to us.